Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the dim light of the Los Angeles skyline, where the bold and the beautiful had written countless dramas of love, betrayal and redemption, ELECTRA's world shattered like fragile crystal under the weight of unyielding justice. She had been the epitome of glamour, with raven hair cascading like midnight waves and eyes that burned with 1,000 unspoken secrets. But now those eyes were swollen with tears, staring blankly at the cold steel bars of a prison transport van barreling toward Luna Base's launch pads. ELECTRA said her final farewell to the life she knew as she was dragged away in chains, her fate sealed by a web of corporate espionage and familial deceit. It started months ago, in the opulent penthouse overlooking the Pacific, where Katie Logan clutched her newborn daughter, Aria, to her chest. Katie, with her sharp wit and unwavering determination, had sworn an oath that echoed through the halls of Forrester Creations. "I'll take the baby, no matter what." Her voice had cracked, laced with a sorrow that belied her steely resolve. Aria's mother, ELECTRA, had implicitly trusted her sister-in-law. But trust in the bold and the beautiful was a more volatile currency than stocks in a market crash. ELECTRA's crime? Uncovering a plot by the ruthless Ridge Forrester to sabotage Luna's terraforming project, a daring attempt to colonize the moon for humanity's survival in the face of Earth's deteriorating environment. She had hacked into secure servers and leaked documents proving Ridge's connections to black market helium, 3 miners looking to exploit Luna's resources for profit. The evidence was damning, as was the backlash. Ridge's influence reached the highest levels of government, and ELECTRA was accused of being a traitor. "Prison to Luna," the judge had said, sentencing her to indefinite labor on the lunar penal colony, where convicts worked in vacuum-sealed domes, extracting regolith under the harsh gaze of solar flares. As the van jolted over potholes on the way to the spaceport, ELECTRA's mind replayed the goodbye moment. Katie stood there with baby Aria wrapped in silk blankets embroidered with Forrester crests, her tears mirroring ELECTRA's. "I'll raise her as my own," Katie promised, her voice a thin thread in the storm. "She'll know your stories, your strength. Farewell, ELECTRA. Come back to us." But Luna was a one-way ticket for most. The journey itself could break the spirit, with anti-grav sickness and isolation chambers that mimicked the void. The spaceport was alive with activity, shuttles humming with fusion drives, guards and exosuits patrolling the perimeter. ELECTRA was stripped of her designer gown and dressed in a utilitarian jumpsuit labeled OMG 7482. Her wrists chafed against mag cuffs, and as they marched her to the boarding ramp, she caught a glimpse of the stars through the dome. Luna loomed large in her mind, a barren rock punctuated by craters where prisoners mined for water ice and rare isotopes, their lives measured in shifts and oxygen levels. ELECTRA was herded into a cryopod bay aboard the transport ship Eclipse Vanguard, along with dozens of other thieves, dissidents, and the forgotten. The pod closed with a hiss, injecting sedatives that blurred the distinction between dream and despair. In her haze, she imagined Aria's tiny fingers clutching Katie's necklace, a locket containing ELECTRA's photo. Katie had promised to teach her daughter the piano, just as ELECTRA had performed haunting melodies in the Forrester mansion. But promises in this world are as fleeting as shooting stars. Weeks faded into the void of transit. When she arrived, Luna's gravity, 1/6 that of Earth, greeted her with disorienting lightness. The penal colony stretched across the Sea of Tranquility, with domed habitats connected by pressurized tubes and guarded by AI drones that scanned for descent. ELECTRA's assignment was to process regolith, sifting lunar soil for volatiles under never-ending floodlights. Her hands, once manicured for galas, blistered and bled, caked in gray dust that seeped into every pore. Nights, if one could call the endless lunar day night, brought solitude to her bunk pod. She wept for Aria, wondering if Katie's promise was true. Back on Earth, Katie negotiated the perilous waters of Forrester intrigue. Ridge, sensing her vulnerability, pressured her to give up Aria, claiming the child belonged to the family legacy. "ELECTRA's gone," he sneered during boardroom discussions. "Luna claims its own." But Katie, fueled by a mother's borrowed love, resisted. She hired private investigators, leaked Ridge's secrets to the press, and influenced public opinion. "I'll take the baby," she said as a mantra, shielding Aria from paparazzi flashes and whispered threats. Electra's sadness grew with each communication blackout cycle. Letters from Earth arrived sporadically, smuggled by sympathetic guards. Katie's words evoked images of Arya's first steps in the mansion gardens, her laughter ringing like chimes. "She's got your eyes, Electra. Fierce and kind. Hold on." But holding on required surviving cave-ins, radiation leaks, and the psychological toll of isolation. Fellow inmates told stories about lost families, their voices hollow under respirators. Jax, a former engineer, became her confidant and taught her how to rig solar panels for extra power, small acts of rebellion. As the months and years passed, Electra's resolve hardened into quiet defiance. She organized secret education sessions for inmates, teaching them about Luna's potential as a new frontier rather than a prison. Whispers of a breakout circulated, fueled by Earth-shifting politics. Katie's campaign gained traction, and exposés revealed Ridge's corruption, ultimately leading to his downfall. Electra was innocent, the headlines proclaimed. Pardons trickled in, but Electra's case remained in bureaucratic limbo. A shuttle arrived unannounced during a fateful solar eclipse, when Earth's shadow cloaked Luna. Guards rushed through the domes to unlock the pods. "Pardon granted," they exclaimed. Electra, dust-covered and gaunt, stumbled into the light. The trip home was a blur of medical scans and reunions. Katie waited at the spaceport with Arya, now a toddler with raven curls in her arms. "I swore I'd take her," Katie sobbed, "but I always knew you'd return." Their embrace was a tapestry of tears, the bold and beautiful regaining its heartbeat. Electra scooped Arya up, inhaling her scent of baby powder and earthy air. "Farewell to prison," she murmured. "Hello to forever." But the sadness lingered, a scar from Luna's cold kiss, reminding them that some goodbyes leave an indelible mark on the soul. However, this was only the start of their unique sorrow. Electra's return revealed deeper wounds. Arya, raised by Katie, referred to her as Auntie at first, which hurt Electra deeply. Rebuilding trust required navigating Katie's unspoken grief. She had bonded with the child, her own hopes for motherhood dashed by barren years. Ridge, exiled but vengeful, plotted from the shadows, sending anonymous threats. "Luna's pull is strong. One call and you're back." Electra threw herself into activism, establishing the Luna Redemption Project and advocating for prisoner rights. Jax's and others' testimonies fueled her fire, but nightmares followed, craters swallowing her whole, Arya's face fading into stardust. Katie, the ever-present pillar, stood by her, but tension remained. "You were gone," Katie admitted one rainy night on the balcony. "I swore to protect her, but part of me, I became her mother." The unmistakable sadness ran through their lives like lunar threads. Arya became more inquisitive and bold, asking about the moon mommy in bedtime stories. Electra told sanitized stories, but the truth emerged in fragments, court documents and holovids from the trial. Arya confronted her at 7 and asked, "Why did you leave me?" Electra's tears fell like meteor showers. "Prison dragged me, but love brought me back." Complications arose when Ridge's allies discovered forged evidence, reigniting calls for Electra's arrest. Katie, Arya's sworn protector, went underground with her and fled to a safe house in the Rockies. Electra, undeterred, infiltrated corporate archives, forming an unlikely alliance with Forrester Kinbrook Logan, whose own scandals paled in comparison to this injustice. Their alliance was fragile, based on mutual sorrow, with Brooke's lost loves mirroring Electra's lunar exile. In the mountains, Katie taught Arya survival skills and told her stories about Electra's bravery. "She fought for our future," Katie explained as they huddled around a fire. But isolation bred doubt. Katie's health deteriorated due to stress, a rare lunar radiation residue left by a smuggled artifact Electra had sent as a token. Doctors confirmed microlesions in her lungs, a slow poison from the moon's harsh dust. Electra raced against the clock, bartering with space agencies for experimental therapies. Jax, now free and leading ex-inmate organizations, smuggled cure prototypes from Luna Labs. The reunion was bittersweet, with Arya serving as a bridge between the women, her innocence providing solace. "I have 2 mommies," she announced, hugging both. Katie's recovery was partial. Her breaths were always labored, a reminder of sacrifices. Years later, as Arya matured into a young scientist dreaming of Luna's colonization, the family faced their ultimate challenge. A massive solar storm hampered Earth-Luna communications, stranding new prisoners. ELECTRA, Katie, and Arya volunteered for a rescue mission, putting on suits and boarding a shuttle. In zero gravity, old wounds resurfaced, ELECTRA's fear of the void, Katie's frail resolve. They were successful in saving hundreds, but it came at a cost. Katie collapsed in the airlock, having pushed herself too far. "I swore I'd take the baby," she gasped. "And I did. Till you came." Her final breath fogged the visor, Arya's screams echoing in the communications. ELECTRA held her as the shuttle docked, her sorrow turning to resolve. Back on Earth, ELECTRA raised Arya on her own, fulfilling Katie's promise by instilling values of bravery and beauty in the midst of adversity. Their unique sad story became legend. A farewell to prison, a hello to enduring love, etched in lunar dust and human tears. Arya, visiting Luna as an adult, scattered Katie's ashes in a crater, whispering, "Farewell until the stars align." Luna's heart pounded as she sat in the cold, sterile cell, the metallic clang of the door behind her reverberating through her chest like a death knell. It felt surreal that everything she had once fought for, every dream she had cradled so carefully, was now slipping through her fingers. She pressed her palms against her face, wishing she could rewind time, undo the mistakes that had led her to this point. But reality was merciless. The choices she had made, the lies she had told, and the people she had hurt could not be untold. She thought about the baby growing inside her, a tiny life that depended on her in ways she had never fully understood until now. The thought should have filled her with hope, but instead, it brought an ache so deep it felt like it might hollow her out from the inside. Katie's words rang in her ears. "I'll take the baby." Katie's certainty, her moral conviction, cut through Luna like a blade. Luna wanted to argue, to protest, to claim her child, but the words lodged in her throat. She had been outmaneuvered, outsmarted, and outlasted by everyone around her, and the bitter taste of defeat lingered. Memories of ELECTRA's fury flashed through her mind. The moment ELECTRA had stormed in, dragging her toward the waiting police, Luna had felt a mix of fear and betrayal. She had once believed ELECTRA was someone she could manipulate, someone she could twist to her advantage, but that illusion had shattered in seconds. ELECTRA's grip on her arm had been unyielding, her face a mask of righteous anger. Luna remembered the sting of the slap, the humiliation of being publicly subdued by someone she had underestimated. The cell was cold, much colder than she had anticipated. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting harsh shadows across the walls. Luna hugged her knees to her chest, trying to keep warm, but more than that, trying to hold herself together. She had always thought she was strong, that she could bend the world to her will. But strength, she now realized, was not about power or manipulation. It was about facing the consequences of your actions, no matter how unbearable they might be. Time passed in an agonizing blur. The distant sounds of footsteps and murmured conversations in the hallway reminded Luna that life continued beyond her confinement, life that she could no longer control. She wondered about Katie, about how she would handle the child. Would Katie love it as Luna had dreamed of loving it? Would the baby be happy in a world where its mother was behind bars, unable to protect or nurture it? Luna's chest tightened at the thought. The tears she had fought so hard to suppress now flowed freely, carving wet paths down her cheeks. She thought about her family and friends, the people who had once supported her, or at least pretended to. Had they truly believed in her? Or had they merely tolerated her presence, waiting for her inevitable fall? The more she pondered, the more she realized how isolated she had become, not by circumstance but by her own choices. Every betrayal, every secret, every lie had pushed them away, leaving her alone with nothing but the shadow of the life she had once imagined. Memories of the baby's first movements inside her womb surfaced, tender and fleeting, reminders of a joy she feared she might never fully experience. She had imagined moments of laughter, the soft cooing of a newborn, the gentle weight of a child in her arms. But now those dreams felt cruelly out of reach. Luna pressed her hand against her stomach, whispering apologies she hoped her unborn child could somehow hear. She swore silently to herself that she would endure whatever came, that she would survive for the sake of the baby, even if she had failed everything else. Hours or perhaps days passed. The monotony of confinement weighed heavily on her, each second stretching into an eternity. Luna tried to distract herself by recalling memories of happier times, but even those were tinged with regret. She remembered moments of laughter, fleeting connections with friends, and tender interactions with strangers that had once given her hope. Now all of it seemed like a cruel joke, a reminder of everything she had lost. The sound of keys jingling at the cell door snapped her out of her reverie. A guard appeared, his expression unreadable, and motioned for her to stand. Luna obeyed mechanically, her limbs heavy, her mind numb. She was led down a long corridor, past other cells where men and women stared at her, their eyes reflecting a mixture of curiosity, pity, and indifference. Each step felt like a march toward an unknown fate, toward a future she could barely imagine, let alone control. Outside, the world continued as if nothing had happened. Children laughed in the distance, the sun glinted off car windows, and life moved forward without pause. Luna felt like an invisible observer, trapped behind an impenetrable barrier, while the world she had once tried to conquer carried on. She longed for someone, anyone, to offer comfort, to remind her that she was not entirely alone. But she knew that the comfort she sought would not come, at least not from the people she had known. She had burned too many bridges, leaving herself stranded in a landscape of her own making. As she was escorted into a waiting vehicle, Luna's thoughts turned to ELECTRA. She hated the woman for what she had done, for the humiliation, for the way she had wielded justice like a weapon. But beneath that hate was a flicker of understanding, however small. ELECTRA had acted from a place of moral certainty, believing that what she had done was right. Luna could not fault her for that, though it did little to soothe the wound of betrayal. She realized painfully that she had underestimated the consequences of her actions, and that lesson would be burned into her memory forever. The ride to the detention center was long and silent. Luna stared out the window, watching the world blur past in a smear of colors. She thought of the life she had left behind, the career she had fought so hard to build, the relationship she had tried to manipulate to her advantage. All of it seemed distant now, ephemeral, like smoke slipping through her fingers. She wondered if she would ever find redemption, if she would ever hold her child, if she would ever reclaim even a fraction of the life she had lost. In the confines of her cell, Luna confronted the stark reality of her existence. She was alone, facing the consequences of choices that could not be undone. Yet, amid the despair, a quiet resolve began to take shape. She could not change the past, but she could survive the present. She could endure the isolation, the humiliation, the fear, and the loss, because she had no other choice. The baby inside her had no choice either, and Luna vowed to be strong for the both of them. Days blended into weeks. Luna established a routine, small acts of survival that gave her a sense of control in an uncontrollable situation. She exercised, wrote in a journal, and whispered words of love and apology to her unborn child. Every kick, every movement was a reminder of why she had to endure, a tiny beacon of hope in an otherwise bleak existence. She found solace in these moments, fragile though they were, and clung to them like a lifeline. Occasionally, Luna thought of Katie. She imagined her holding the baby, smiling, providing the love and care that Luna could not. The thought was bitter, but Luna knew it was true. Katie could offer what she could not. And perhaps in that knowledge, Luna found a small measure of peace. She had wanted to control everything, to manipulate every outcome. But life had shown her that some things were beyond her grasp. Acceptance, she realized, might be the first step toward healing. Letters from the outside arrived sporadically, each one a reminder of the world she had left behind. Some were filled with anger, others with pity, and a few incredibly rare with genuine concern. Luna treasured those letters, reading them over and over, drawing strength from the words even when they stung. She clung to the notion that despite everything, some people still remembered the person she had been before the lies, before the betrayal, before the fall. As her pregnancy progressed, Luna's thoughts became increasingly consumed by the baby. She imagined a future where, despite her imprisonment, she could still be a part of her child's life. The thought of never seeing the baby again was unbearable, yet she could not allow despair to overwhelm her entirely. She began to make plans, small and fragile, for the moments after birth. Perhaps there could be a way to be present, to protect, to love even from afar. The possibility, however slim, was a lifeline in the darkness. One night, as Luna lay awake on the hard cot, she allowed herself to fully grieve. She cried for the life she had lost, for the relationship she had shattered, for the future that had been stolen from her. She cried for the baby, for the unfairness of a world in which innocence could not shield one from suffering. And in the midst of her tears, she made a silent promise. No matter what happened, she would endure. She would survive for the sake of the child, and perhaps in time she might find a way to redeem herself. The days and weeks that followed were a relentless cycle of monotony and reflection. Luna learned the rhythms of confinement, discovered small ways to retain her sanity, and clung to the hope that one day, freedom would come. She understood more deeply than ever the fragility of life and the consequences of her actions. She learned that power could not shield one from consequence, that ambition could not erase guilt, and that love, even when absent, could still be a source of strength. By the time her due date approached, Luna was a changed woman. The pain of loss, the weight of isolation, and the love for the child growing inside her had transformed her. She had come to understand the depth of human resilience, the quiet courage it took to face each day when hope seemed distant. And as she felt the first sharp pangs of labor, she closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, not for herself, but for the child she was about to bring into a world that had already taken so much from her.